What up, Toji here. I touched on this in the last video, and I still stand by it. Xiangli Yao is a better free character than Dr. Ratio was in Honkai Star Rail. The best free character given to players in any gacha game period. Because at the top of my mind right now, I'm thinking of games like Nikkei when they gave away the free small white, and while she can be useful in the early to mid game, she's not really going to be the best character you can use in late game. However, Xiangli Yao, much like Dr. Ratio, is really good from early, mid to late game, but extremely strong for players that don't have very many options on their account. And that is where Xiangli Yao sticks out compared to Dr. Ratio Now, to understand why Xiangli Yao is a better standalone character than Dr. Ratio, you have to think about the game we are playing, Wuthering Waves. A game that is centered around your agency, or rather gives you agency over the course of the fight. You directly control your characters and you directly control the outcome of the fight. If you dodge the enemy's attacks, you will have attack windows to deal damage to the enemy. If you don't dodge the enemy's attack, you will be attacked, you'll take damage, sometimes even one shot, and you'll waste time on the time duration to get the 3 stars for the full clear. And I'm talking about Tower Adversity. There are some characters that have been able to clear the hardest contests the game has to offer with a character solo, such as Encore, because of how good she is as a standalone character. This is a character you want to have on the field as long as possible, because the more field time she has, the more damage she's going to have. And if you have a team with Encore, it's not like you can't have a team with her, really wasting the field time of what Encore could be on field for if you are staying too long on those other characters. There are some characters that are an exception to this. Jinsei is the first character that comes to mind of a character that wants to be on field for quite some time, but also wants to be off field for quite some time as well, because she needs time to charge up her Forte Circuit, because her Forte Circuit will allow her to get a very powerful resonance skill damage hit. And then you're also able to maximize not only the buffs you are getting from your supports, but also the fact that they are providing stacks for Jinsei after she uses her outro skill. And then once they take the field, then they'll give her stacks to her Forte Circuit from their attacks. And then the ultimate will apply those Forte Circuit stacks from those characters, right, to Jinsei off field. Once you then swap into Jinsei, you'll have overwhelming amounts of the Forte Circuit already, and then you'll be able to get the Forte Circuit to 100% most of the time after doing a full rotation in time for your resonance skill hit. Now, we only have one Verena in the game right now, and the reason why this is very important is because you can only use her on one team most of the time, right? If you are typically using the same team on all runs of the different towers of adversity, right? But let's just say you are using Verena on one specific team, all of the tower adversity runs, then you as a player will benefit more with Verena on your team with Xiangli Yao, because she's providing the attack, the electro damage boost, the damage boost for any element really, but the electro damage boost for Xiangli Yao, and even more attack depending on what set you're using. If you're using Rejuvenating Glow, you'll get more attack after healing the allies. And this in turn will give Xiangli Yao a lot more DPS on the field, even if you don't have Yinlin in your party. And then you can use other characters to make up for the fact that you don't have Yinlin in your party. There is a few characters that can help you with the resonance liberation damage you may need on your Xiangli Yao after swapping into him, because maybe you don't have Yinlin on your account. And a character like Zhang Xing can provide you with that resonance liberation damage after using her outro skill, and she also happens to be a very solid defensive option. So maybe you don't have Verena on your account, well then Zhang Xing is a very nice alternative to Verena, but Verena still does provide more value because of the attack she also gives on top of the damage boost she already gives. Then that frees up the slot of having to use Verena on the team with Xiangli Yao, and instead you can use Verena on a different team that will benefit that other DPS character even more. And the obvious part here is that Xiangli Yao completely dusts Calcharo to the point where no one will ever talk about Calcharo ever again after the end of Xiangli Yao's banner. And that's because Calcharo has innate issues in his kit and is very hard to play for a lot of players. The performance of this character needs to be top notch in order to get the max amount of DPS out of him. And for a lot of players, that's too much. I mean, again, we are playing a game that is already extremely sweaty. You have to be even more sweaty against bosses that are pretty tedious or annoying to fight. And I can only imagine that using Calcharo in those situations would drive you insane. I mean, I'm already insane. I don't want to be even more mentally insane, right? But Xiangli Yao is able to be on the field, still be hit by the enemy, and not have to worry about messing up his combos like Calcharo does. And the best part about Xiangli Yao is that he has a harder hitting ultimate. Cao Charo has a decent hitting ultimate, but not on the same multiplier of Xiangli Yao, and that's where the synergy with Yinlin comes into play if you do have her on your account. And if you don't have her, then he still ends up being a better standalone character than Cao Charo in DPS, and is still easier to play. So for a lot of players, that is a huge plus. And I know a lot of you have skipped Zhe just because I've been seeing the amount of discourse on this character in terms of no one wanting to roll for the character, because a later character such as Shorekeeper is going to be a much more valuable character on your account long term. And I also do understand that a character like Xiangli Yao has more innate value because he is another damage dealer, which allows you to clear the probably third stage of tower versus you haven't been able to clear due to lack of DPSs or good DPSs on your account. Because if you are free to play, then pretty much the only DPSs you do have is either Jian or Jinsei, and then Encore. Who's the last DPS character using on your account? Probably not Xiangli, right? So in turn, you're going to use Xiangli Yao for that third slot. And instead of rolling for Zhe, you can instead roll for the weapon of Xiangli Yao to provide more value for the character. Now, if we look at a character like Dr. Ratio, and when he was given to play for free, which was 1.6 of Honkai Star Rail, he wasn't in the same tier he is currently in terms of tier list. And to be quite honest, he was a character many players didn't really have the opportunities to use, because they were too busy using the destruction characters that were a lot easier to use, were easier to build, and had access to teammates that were more free-to-play friendly. If you wanted to use Dr. Ratio as a DPS, you either needed to have Silver Wolf, another 5-star character, you needed to have Topaz, another 5-star character, and you also needed to have Topaz with her signature light cone or her first Eidolon, which is even less free-to-play friendly. And if you wanted to go even further with Dr. Ratio on the team with Topaz, you wanted Ruan Mei, because we didn't have Robin at the time of him releasing. Ruan Mei was the best buffer for dual DPS teams, and Topaz and Dr. Ratio are two characters that both have damage in their kit. And then the last character, if you really want to make the team premium, was Huohuo. And that was because she gave energy and attack to the whole team, which would help with these two characters getting their ultimates faster. And depending if you had Eidolons on the character too, she also gave speed on top of that, right? Ruan Mei already gave speed, which was nice for both of them. But she also gave attack percentage with the ultimate aside from the energy, which allows these two characters to deal even more damage. But that was Dr. Ratio at his best. And if you didn't have those specific characters with their specific Eidolons or light cone choices, then Dr. Ratio was a character that wasn't even close to this tier. To be quite honest, he was a lot worse to use than Seal at times. And that was because she had access to teammates you probably had Wolf for in the past, such as Silver Wolf, who can be used with Dr. Ratio, but it's still a lot harder to use Dr. Ratio because of the way you have to, you have to have a premium build Dr. Ratio, because again, he is the only one really dealing damage, and you're depending on the enemy having imaginary weakness if Silver Wolf is not going. Again, it's such a weird team comp. I don't really like using Silver Wolf with Dr. Ratio. I never really have. She can work, but I just never really enjoyed it. I found other characters that are debuffers to work better, right? Palo was a good example, being a very solid character. It was a good side myself here. And then Seal was just a lot easier to use for many players because you already had built the character. You already have access again to all of those characters that she worked with, such as Bronya, who was pretty good with Seal at the time. You now have Sparkle, who replaces her, right? But yeah, that's why Dr. Ratio was a character that wasn't very useful for any players. Because if you are free to play, it takes so many premium currency to roll for the character and then the Eidolon to use her alongside him. That's the video here. I'm going to fight this Impertinence Haran because I'm currently in the middle of building Tauki. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed and have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.